Well, welcome to At the Open Gate. This is our opportunity to talk with our colleagues and friends. And today is a special version because I am here with our Open Gate team. We have together with me today Kim Wilcox, our marketing manager. Good morning, Kim.
Morning. Glad to be
And
here.
Yeah, and Laura Stott, many of you have met and interacted with. Laura is our program manager, so deals with a lot of our, or works with a lot of our clients as well. And then yours truly. And here we wanted today to talk about Father's Day since that's coming up and have an opportunity to talk about our fathers and pause and reflect on those men that shaped who we are today, what they taught us, and kind of what they left with us. And recognizing not everyone is perfect and no one is, and yet our fathers bring a special quality to our lives that I think we wanted to try to recognize and dive into a little bit today. So we're just going to have a conversation, and I just have a few questions today, and we'll see what bubbles up. So one of the things I just thought, let's start with just tell us a little bit about our fathers and maybe what was something that you most admired about him or still carry with today. And Kim, I'll throw it to you, let you kick us off if you'd like. And
Sure, sure. Well, my the one thing that I've realized was is definitely my father's best trait is his calmness in a crisis. And that's something that I mean everybody needs that skill is to be able to be calm at the time when something is going on. And he was always so stoic as men were then. So
yes.
you never knew if he was actually in a crisis.
How did he demonstrate that stoic nature? What did you see?
Oh, there he didn't raise his voice often. It was very calm and like everyone he would address, even when he was upset and angry, would be very specific. And it was always just that there, there's no need to raise your voice. Just remind them that they're supposed to be doing something.
And what effect did that not raising his voice have on you?
Well, I I think that that gets a little tricky, right? Because
Mhm.
it makes it difficult for me as an adult to interject sometimes
Mhm.
because I'm used to just don't say anything, right? Just
Mhm.
calmly,
Model.
So there's a little bit of that side as well, but I do try to keep things as calm as possible, even when there
Mhm.
is, you know, uh, all sorts of chaos going on.
Was there any point when you realized, so that's something that shows up in your daily life just as a result of his influence. Was there any point when you realized maybe that that came from him?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. There's especially as we get older, like I recognize a lot more of mannerisms and stuff that I've probably collected from him over the years.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And Laura, how about you? What are some traits about your dad that you really admire and remember?
So my dad worked like a dog. I remember that always growing up. My mom is deaf, and so it was hard for her to get work because why would someone hire someone who can't answer the phones but can type really well, but there's somebody who can do both, right? So it was really hard for her, and she wanted to take care of us five kids. So my dad worked a lot. I remember times where he would be just gone for a week because he'd have three or four different jobs as a painting contractor, right? And so he would stay at the apartments or, in a hotel or close to where he was painting so he could knock everything out as soon as possible instead of driving back and forth an hour there and back every day. It was sometimes just easier. And so I have a strong work ethic because I saw it a lot. he killed himself pretty much. Like it was really hard sometimes because his feet would hurt. It's a lot of physical labor, but he did what he could to make sure all of us were taken care of. He protected us. He was a really, really good, he was a good man. A lot of the leadership stuff that I do comes from what I remember
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah. And what impacted that? Well, I mean, I hear you saying that it's impacted who you are today and those traits carried through to you. Did
Yeah.
you recognize that as a kid when you saw him working so hard? It's like, wow, dad's working to provide for us, or do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, a lot. I mean, with 5 kids and only one parent working, and the construction industry is not always,
Mhm.
they don't make millions of dollars typically, right? And so I just remember, he would provide what we needed, but then if he would ever get like, sometimes he'd get a bonus if he finished up faster or the work was better than they thought or whatever. Then we'd have fun with the bonus. We would, you know, buy bed sets or spring for new clothes or just random things, right?
Mhm.
So I always knew that. And I've been working since I was 12. He taught me how to do construction stuff and painting and stuff when I was 12. So
Mhm.
I painted my entire basement because of that. And it's been a good skill to have because then I don't need to hire someone to do it.
I was gonna say, and your basement probably looks far better than anything I could ever paint. So probably nice straight lines and wow, sounds like a great. Well, and I'm sort of noticing a theme with both of you that there's that just that steadiness, that calmness, that persistence, and as I reflect on my dad a little bit too, I see some of the same things. I think the word that came, well, two that come to me when I think about the qualities I most admire were his reliability. Like kind of like the hard work, but it's like my memories of him. He was in the army, retired when I was probably 3 or 4, and then took a job as a corrections officer. So he worked in a prison system, worked shift work, and but when he was working the day shift, I'd always just remember him, having his coffee, listening to the radio, and he'd have to take a ferry to the island to, go to work, but it was like every day, like clockwork. And I knew he was just that reliability and then the integrity. Just I always knew he would do the right thing. And I was chuckling a little bit when Kim, you said your dad was, really quiet, and that was my dad
Yeah.
too. I think a lot of that generation. My brother even
Yeah.
um, mentioned at my dad's memorial that he took quite great pride in that fact that you could sit in the car with him for 2 hours and he wouldn't say a word and was actually quite proud of that. So there's a little bit of that generation. And I was thinking it taught me that silence is very powerful because my dad, like both of yours, he never raised his voice, never got angry. But I think that's why we feared him a little bit. It's like, well, you never know what's underneath all that. So there's some power in that. But yeah, that reliability and that just doing the right thing and providing for the family was something that I always noticed as well. He was always there, could always count on
Yeah.
him, which like a lot of the men I know. So, well, transitioning that a little bit to a leadership lesson, then maybe if all of us reflect on maybe were there any, since we deal in this space this day and age and helping people think about how do we translate that to leading others, what did your dads teach you about that, about leadership or
Well,
model
one
or?
thing One thing my dad always said, leaders don't really want to be leaders. Because, because he always hated the fact that everyone was like asking him for information, especially when they didn't actually have it. Because if you recall, my father worked for the water board
Hmm.
for my whole life. So
Hmm.
he was always dealing with public issues and utilities and everybody, and everybody wanted their own answers, but nobody had the patience to wait for them. So he was always like, if you like this, you're crazy. So
That's funny. There's probably some truth to that, right? I've heard some managers say, and I can relate to this too. It's like, this would be a great job if I didn't have to deal with people.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could
Right?
just do the planning and the execution and just tell people what to do and they did it and no problems, that'd be great.
Yep.
That's a great lesson. Laura, how about you? Any reflections on what you learned about leadership from your dad?
Yeah, now, thinking back on it, it wasn't something I would have learned, or I recognized as a child. But my dad was someone that anybody could come talk to. If they had a problem, if they needed help with something, he was known as the one who was willing to help. And he would, whether it be via service or we called them our daddy lectures. He was not shy to share his opinions. He was not shy to tell anybody what's what. Like, he's very blunt, which is where my bluntness comes from. So I have to rein that back a little bit sometimes. But like even my brothers and my older brother and sister growing up, if their friends were ready to buy a car or even something like that, they would ask my dad if there was any way he could help them. And his version of help was, yeah, I can help with this. Lecture them for a couple hours, lecture, giving them kind words and reminding them how it's a big responsibility to do this or that, and just letting them know that he was there to help them. So he was someone that everybody knew that they could go to, and he would talk to them and he would work through it, and he would show up all the time. He would be exhausted, but he was still there for us. He would go to every dance thing, everything we ever had. And I tell my kids that all the time. If grandpa was still here, he would be at every single soccer game you had, every school event, everything that he could do, because he just loved everybody and just wanted to be there for everybody.
Mm. And that's such a amazing quality too. And I think about it globally again in terms of just the people that we work with, right? The leaders that are there being consistent, but not getting a lot of recognition for that. And I think, I mean, if you think about Father's Day in general, I mean, Mother's Day is a big to do, right? Lots of flowers and events, and we take mom out to a nice dinner, and dad might get a tie or something like that. It's usually not as big of a holiday for some reason, and dads just tend to not get the recognition, and it's that consistency too. I think it's such a valuable quality that we need more of desperately, and people don't get recognized for it.
Yeah.
But that's just my soapbox. I don't know if you do agree, if that resonates with you, but it's I wish we could recognize that more, right? That consistency. And I think, and if I think about my dad, it was I think the leadership trait that I admired the most, and again, was his integrity, or is still I admire it, but his integrity. And he, even though he was a very quiet man, but he was definitely the one that if there was ever anything in the workplace where he might be asked to do something out of the ordinary that maybe didn't fit with his values, he would push back. And I knew for a fact that there were maybe some ways that had costed him in his career and in other ways in life. And they were often subtle things, again, not a big like standing on a soapbox somewhere yelling about something, but just saying, no, I'm not going to do it this way. Or and so it was that integrity, I think, that really stuck with me as well. Again, and what do they say? Integrity is what you do when no one's looking.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that I really value in leaders, right? Because I view leadership as a higher calling. And a lot of folks maybe get promoted into a role and don't quite fully embrace that fact that this is a higher calling now. Now that you have that title, you have a higher level of responsibility too. So, any thoughts from both of you? Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Well, I
Well,
think it's important to remember that you can be a leader without having the leader title. And that's something that always stuck with me. My dad taught us all how to lead in situations, how to be the support that someone can go to, right? And it just it shows up all the time is I love to just help people, and he taught me a lot, and so I like to teach people, and I lead, and I'm not necessarily a leader. That's not my job title or whatever, right? But you can still lead people and show them by example, and you can serve them, and you can have integrity, and you can be that person that people can trust,
Mhm.
even if you're not their official leader.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
very
leading,
true.
right? Yeah, and it goes back to leadership is really about influence. It's not about a title. It's about how we influence
Yeah.
a situation. Yeah. And we can do that regardless of title. Yeah. Well, what's a fun memory? Let's end on a good note. What's a fun memory that you want us to think about of your dad?
I always liked my father's exaggerated stories that we all knew had no basis in reality, or more specifically, is just the goofiest way of telling the most benign story. uh, he was always very nothing needed to be that serious sort of a person. So,
Yeah, love
um,
that.
yeah,
I
I
love
loved
that.
those stories. They're very fun.
I have a feeling you might have gotten that trait from him too, Kim.
A little bit,
Just a little
bit.
bit.
Apples and trees and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. How about you, Laura? Anything that makes you smile when you think about your dad?
Um, a lot of stuff, of course,
Hmm.
but there, as teenage years is, we're getting the older kids because, with five of us, it always made things a little bit tricky. But as we start getting older, something changed in him, and I'm not quite sure what it was, but he was like, you know what? We need to have more fun in our lives or something like a light bulb went off or whatever. And there was one day he was watching something on the Travel Channel. We loved to watch just all the different top 10 of this and places to visit or whatever. And there was one that said top 10 like restaurants to eat at in the United States. And one of them was a restaurant we had been in Missouri that when we picked up our brother from his mission out there, we stopped at this place, and it was really good, and it's really southern. They literally throw rolls at you. There, if you say hot roll, you stand up and they'll throw them at you. And my dad just remembered loving that experience. So he said, "Okay, I cleared my schedule this weekend. We're going to drive to Missouri, and we're all going to go to Lambert's, and we're going to eat dinner." And we did. We're from Utah. It was like a 26-hour drive or something.
Crazy.
And not only did we choose to do that, we rented a van because we had cousins and a couple friends that wanted to come with us. So we drove to Missouri to have dinner.
That's
It's
awesome.
amazing. I love it.
That is a great story. Well, and it's funny how because as both of you are talking, I'm thinking about what stood out for me or makes me smile about my dad too. And it's such a contrast, right? Because we in the beginning we're talking about consistency, hard workers, and what makes us a smile about our dads. And same thing for me was his sense of humor. And again, even though he was real quiet and it's not like telling jokes at a mic or anything like that, but you could always just find something funny in a situation. And that's what I always, and both my parents had pretty good sense of humor. So, which is what I always admired about both of them. Just a silliness, that would come out at different points in time. And so that, yeah, that's always what brings us the fond memories. So it's like that balance, right? We've got to have fun
Yeah.
too. So love your story, Laura. I loved that's pretty wild. But
It was
well,
a good time. It was really
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Well, thank you both for having a little break with me this morning. This was fun. And so, to wrap us up, just to say that, there's many ways to be a good man and a good leader. And I think we all identified that that was an important role in our lives. And, that men show up, men are persistent, and men can also know how to have fun, and we appreciate them for that. So that matters. Thank you.